the question is, where do women learn that? How are they taught that? What are the rules for being a wife? Is there any kind of training? I mean, are women being taught to that the relationship is more take than give? Right? Are they taught to demand more than they deliver? Right? We see that she's playing her role, but what about the other relationships out there, the more common ones, the ones that aren't superstars? Right? If women expect protection and provision or emotional support, what do they offer men in return? Right? Besides their presence. So those are kind of some of the questions. The other thing I wanted to put forward is, and let me give you a little more context. So I'm watching this video, and these guys are talking, and they're like, "Yo, man, I don't think women even know how to be wives, and they just don't even know." And the other guys they do know how to be a wife. A wife just takes. She get in your pocket. That they get the bag, and when he broke, you move on. I've heard similar things from women who were not on podcasts, by the way. So that thought process is out there. So I'm going to ask you: do women confuse treating a man well and with just sex and affection, while ignoring like the man's need for like respect, peace, partnership, the things that make him more of a man and more capable of fulfilling his purpose? Do you think that, in succinctly, women are being taught somewhere, somehow, how to treat a man or how to be wives?
Whew, I'm glad you brought it back. I'm like, what question is this? Listen, I think we should probably slow it down a little bit, okay? Because the wives thing might be a bit of a stretch. Let's just start with, are women being taught how to treat men? Right? I personally, when we talked about this question, I was thinking about it in the context of, when we think of chivalry, for example, right? Innately, I wouldn't say innately, maybe programmatically, men are kind of taught the idea, whether we practice it or not, of chivalry, right? These are things that men should do for women, right? We have women in our lives. These are things that we should look out for women. We should cover them. We should protect them. And so I feel like society certainly, bare minimum, put these ideas out there in terms of how men should treat women. Right? Even through music, we have R&B, which we kind of jokingly talked about, maybe the simp R&B, where it's like, I want to love you forever. I want to give you the world. I'm going to do everything from you. These songs still exist, right? Even the toxic versions still talk about certain types of sacrifices. So I do think that men are being taught how to treat women. And sometimes even negatively, if we're going to be honest, right? Hey, if I'm this kind of guy, maybe I can do this kind of thing, right? So even in the toxic ways, I think, yes, men are being taught how to treat women. But the truth is, I was talking to my wife, the last time I remember a song, for example, pop culture, was I Cater to You, which was a song about how a woman was going to cater to her man, all the things that she would do to satisfy and please her man. And I remember thinking to myself, what's the most recent version of that? Is there a most recent version of that? I also remember thinking how many women were out there proudly celebrating that fact. And then I started thinking about how we almost live in a culture where for a woman to be subservient is looked down upon by even other women, regardless of whether or not she's married. Pick me. Or even if a woman talks about, girl, if you should do this for your man, there are women out there who look down on that because they feel like, why should I do this? And why should I do that? So when you talk about the conversation of whether or not women are being taught how to treat a man, I think there's even a credible conversation about whether or not women are being taught how to mistreat men, right? How to mistrust men or distrust, whatever the proper word is. It's like, for real, because the treatment part, like, where are we hearing it from? Like, where in culture and society are we hearing about, hey, ladies, this is how you should treat a man? Shit, when Sha'Carri was knocking her homeboy or her boyfriend upside the head, that was a tough conversation to tell a bitch you shouldn't put your hands on a nigga just because you're a woman doesn't mean you should. Like, even that, right? We're there, right? Because it's already known men should not do that, of course, right? But for her to even be able to move publicly, for that to be allowed, for her to still continue to exist, to not be canceled after we watched that girl put that man in danger and put her hands on. So when we talk about whether or not women are being taught, if it wasn't such a good question just for us to have a good conversation, it wouldn't even be a serious one. I am bereft of looking at really good examples of how society, through music, through culture, right, outside of the expectations for us to be wallets, providers, protectors, or to serve women, right? And even then, society's not even teaching y'all how to get that done gracefully. You know what I'm saying? Because it turns into entitlement, right? And then it turns into outsized expectations. And then it turns into dating down or whatever the fuck y'all on these days. Are women being taught how to treat men? Yes. but badly. You know what I'm saying? How to mistreat men, how to use men, how to objectify men. You know, that's what they're being treated. If we're asking, are they being taught how to treat men well, lovingly, with consideration? You know what I mean? Ah! I'm gonna have to say probably not. Oh, oh. But I'll say this to close, that some of y'all managed to do it anyway. God bless you. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all swam through the sea of misandry to land on the shore of I love my nigga. And I love niggas in general, bro. Despite my mama's trauma, despite my dad's fucked up shit, I found a way to love my nigga and learn. Because y'all had to learn how to treat that nigga right.
Alrighty then. So historically, I would just say that women actually have been overtaught on how to treat men as far as cook, clean, create, cater, give life, and so forth. And it is only recent times that men are discovering that women are now treating them the way that they used to treat women. That's what's happening. What we're discovering is that we are a mirror reflection. And so therefore, treating you guys as objects, objectifying you, only running your pockets is just a reflection of some of the objectification that we've suffered. I say we when I'm married for 26 years. So I'm speaking broadly and for the women out there, some women, because not all. But anyways, so we're only treating you the same way that we were treated in the past. So you only want sticks or you only wanted coochie. Well, we only want dick now. You only wanted us to cook, clean, and cater. Well, we don't want none of that. We just want the provision. We just want you to run the pockets. We don't want nothing else, you know? However, I will note this. This is part of the reason why our community is on the decline because we don't know how to treat each other anymore. It was okay for, as someone so eloquently put earlier, that they became the man that they wanted. And why I actually disagree with that statement, they became the man that they wanted, since she did make it herself. This is actually also part of the problem because are we now confusing what our roles and responsibilities to each other are? And what exactly does that mean? But I do want to address something that Jay said earlier in regards to wives being taught how to be wives and is the present only enough? I actually think that's an insult to the wives because what you did was ignore the emotional presence of that woman. You ignored the fact that the woman, normally the wife, normally managed the household. You ignored the fact that she usually raising the children. You ignored the scheduling, the nurturing, everything that comes with being a wife. When you said that woman was only bringing her presence, is her presence enough? Her presence come with a whole lot of other stuff. And then I also noticed, I have wanted to point this out too, when you talk about respect and peace, that's a two-sided street. We ain't the only ones. Y'all not the only one who want respect and peace. We want the same thing. We want respect and peace as well, but sometimes we get chaos. And so therefore you get disrespected because you brought chaos into the household while expecting that peace. Or you get disrespected because you disrespect yourself by doing whatever the hell foolery and bullshit you was doing that got the disrespect. So I just wanted to address that part. But in general, as much as I almost choked up to say this, I got to agree with Nick. In modern times, in today's dating, there's not a lot of women who are out there who's been taught how to treat a man other than what they see, because there's been a lot of psychological programming to break that down. And there's been an overcorrection. So, and when I say correction, I don't necessarily mean like it was bad in the past. What I mean is that there's been a pendulum swing where now we went from one extreme to the next extreme. We went from, hey, we got to do this, that, and this to be considered these traditional roles, to now we're not doing any of those things that we consider those traditional roles because we don't want to and we don't have to. And now let us be the niggas. Cause I saw this one lady, I think it was Glorilla, who was talking about she's a young nigga. And I was like, why you want to be a YN, first of all? But the fact that women are now calling themselves young niggas and men themselves, that goes to show where we are in this conversation. It's not a good place.
I think part of the issue, I think actually a big piece of the issue is women are not being taught how to treat men well, to Nick's point, but to the degree that they are being taught how to treat men, they're being taught by women with no man. And we are seeing this in a lot of the podcast spaces. We've talked about this before. They're being taught by women who've never been married or can't keep a stable relationship. The best thing that they've had is a situationship. That's a problem. So you kind of got the blind leading the blind. You know, maybe we need to bring back, not wife school, maybe charm school. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe we bring that back.